You're watching The Legal Breakdown. Glenn, we've got some big news here as a judge finally seems to have reached their limit in terms of what the Trump administration is allowed to get away with. Can you explain what just happened in court?
Yeah, Brian, federal judges, federal courts are getting fed up with what appears to be the constant abuses, the excessive force being exercised against the citizenry. I mean, we have these sort of roving border patrol outfits that are wandering around Chicago. Last time I checked, Chicago does not represent a border with another country, but they are, tear gassing protesters who are posing absolutely no threat at all to law enforcement officers. And there's a judge named Sarah Ellis who previously entered an order saying a couple of things. One, that these federal agents must wear body-worn cameras so that everybody can see exactly what kind of law enforcement tactics they are deploying against the citizenry. And the other thing she ordered is that they may not engage in excessive force. For example, they may not tear gas protesters who are out there literally exercising their First Amendment rights of free speech and assembly just because, they may be inconveniencing some of these immigration enforcement operations. And it looks like she's reached the end of her judicial rope. She just ordered somebody named Gregory Bovino. His title is Border Patrol Commander at Large, which kind of sounds like a made-up title to me. Ordered him to appear in her courtroom every single day for the next week while she litigates these complaints that have been filed with her, this lawsuit that has been filed, trying to beat back the excessive force, the unlawful police tactics that are being deployed against the people of Chicago. So it's not, I will say I've never had a judge say, you are going to appear in my courtroom every day for a week while I litigate this, and you're going to be available so, I can put questions to you in real time about these tactics that you are using. So, there were a couple of interesting exchanges that came out of this court hearing. One is that this Gregory Bovino character represented the Judge Ellis that now 99% of the Border Patrol officers who are involved in this operation are now equipped with body-worn camera. And then she said, well, what about you? He said, no, I'm not. I haven't been issued a body-worn camera and I haven't been trained. So she ordered him to get a dang camera. She didn't say dang, that was my addition. And to be trained on it by this Friday. Now, our viewers might remember, Brian, there's an infamous video of this guy, Gregory Bovino, literally lobbing like a softball a tear gas canister into the middle of a bunch of protesters who were posing no danger to anybody. And boy, it looks like Sarah Ellis has had about enough of these kind of tactics. And she said, it seems like you're defying my court orders, so you're going to need to be back here every day. We'll see what she does moving forward. She seems to have ample evidence to commence contempt proceedings against Gregory Bovino. We'll see if she goes there over the course of the week.
Glenn, I'm going to take a really cynical view of things, but I think that's to a degree warranted. To what extent does it matter for these administration officials who may very well know that their punishments are excessive and that they're exhibiting, undue force? If that's what the administration wants, like, why wouldn't the administration just throw this guy into the courtroom for a week? They're not really going to care. They're going to keep doing what they've been doing in the streets. Like, what is the actual deterrent here to stop them from doing the thing that we all know Trump is fully in support of?
Brian, I'm with you. The only deterrent effect may be the shame of the community, of the people, of the citizenry represented by a judge, basically having to babysit a full-grown customs officer and kind of berating him in court. Listen, I can't imagine anybody wants to be held in contempt, even if these people think they are bulletproof at the end of the day because Trump will swoop in with pardons. But
Yeah.
let me just give you a flavor of some of what went on in Judge Ellis's courtroom. So and there's a hidden gem in here that I'm going to share with our viewers in a minute, and it actually goes beyond the ruling in this case, and it gives us all, I think, reason to be inspired and encouraged and motivated by what Judge Ellis said. But there was some evidence adduced at this hearing that there were parents who were taking their kids who were wearing costumes to a parade, and they just started tear gassing these parents and these children. Here is what Judge Ellis said about that. Quote, "Kids dressed in Halloween costumes walking to a parade do not pose an imminent threat for the safety of a law enforcement officer. They just don't, and you can't use riot control weapons against them." So it's pretty clear that Judge Ellis has had enough. But here's the thing that I think our viewers should really focus on. One of the things Judge Ellis said she took into consideration, some of the evidence that helped her reach the conclusions that she reached about how, this is absolutely inappropriate, excessive law enforcement conduct, consisted of the following. She said that the plaintiffs in the case had indeed submitted videos to her of police conduct in the street, these federal agents, and the way they were engaging in excessive force, including against peaceful protesters. She said the following, quote, "I'm getting video that the plaintiffs file. I'm getting videos that citizens send in, and at least in the videos I see, recognizing I wasn't there, it's difficult for me to see that the force being used is necessary to stop an immediate and serious threat of physical harm." What she said right in the middle there is that citizens are sending her videos of ICE and customs agent behavior in the streets. And she's taking it into account in this litigation and in her ruling. Why is that important, Brian? I think that should signal to everybody that there are so many ways we can engage in this fight for American democracy. So recognize that if we get out there and we stand by and we use our cell phone to video this, abusive conduct by Donald Trump's thugs, this excessive force being perpetrated against the citizenry, that becomes potential evidence that we can actually provide to the appropriate authorities. You can send it to a judge's chambers by email if you know that judge is involved in litigation, looking into these complaints of excessive force. That should inspire everyone to get out there, do what they can to document it, and don't just post it online. Figure out where the litigation is being conducted and submit it. That is a way we can all engage in this fight.
I think that's such a great point. Oftentimes I think there is not just a helplessness that kind of consumes us, but it's by design. I think this administration has a vested interest in making sure that we all feel helpless and despairing and powerless. And in instances like this, where we know from the judge's mouth that they're able to look at what people post online, and that means that it can have a real impact on protecting people from the overreach and the abuse at the hands of Donald Trump's completely unhinged law enforcement authorities. So I think that if anybody is deciding whether or not it's worth it to post this stuff online, we have the answer right here. We know who's looking at this stuff. It's not just, your followers online who are getting outraged at this. It's having a discernible impact because it's prosecutors, it's attorneys, it's judges as well. So for anybody who's looking to continue making some small impact that they can, if you have the ability to post an example of abuse or overreach at the hands of any of these law enforcement authorities, this is the answer to that question right here. And I think that answer is beyond clear to just do it. Glenn, it's worth asking here, is there any personal exposure that can be shouldered by any of these officials where they don't have the ultimate protection with the prospect of a Trump pardon?
The answer is maybe. First of all, we have talked about this before. If federal agents, federal officers violate state law, if they assault somebody, and what we see captured on some of these videos, and please everybody continue to take these videos and post them, what we see constitutes assaults. Listen, I was a prosecutor all my life. A law enforcement officer doesn't have the authority to take somebody, throw them to the ground because they happen to be, an inconvenience at that moment, and continue to go on their merry way. That is a criminal assault. So state authorities, I have to believe, are looking at this and considering whether they can bring criminal charges against federal agents. Now, there will be a supremacy clause defense mounted by these federal agents. There will be a qualified immunity defense mounted, but none of that matters. If those end up being winning defenses, so be it, but they may not be. And so I hope there are state prosecutors and district attorneys who are seriously looking at these videos that seem to be capturing criminal assaults in real time. So yes, there's a healthy dose of immunity that goes along with being a federal agent, but it's not absolute. If you're acting so far outside the scope of your official duties, like assaulting people for what looks like fun, you could very well be held accountable either civilly and potentially criminally.
Well, I think it's worth noting too, Glenn, that in a lot of the instances where this precedent that we're talking about is derived from, the law enforcement officials are not acting the way that they're acting right now. And so this is unprecedented as well. An unprecedented action by these law enforcement officials oftentimes necessitates an unprecedented response. And so, I think it's easy to be able to just swat it away and say, oh, they're going to be protected because of the supremacy clause. They're going to be protected because of qualified immunity. But we are in uncharted territory here. And so if ever there was a reason to expect some new possible punishment, it's when we're seeing brand new actions and behaviors being perpetuated by these law enforcement officials.
Yeah, and Brian, I think the word for the day is engage. Engage, engage, engage. Always peacefully, but boy, you never know what you're going to capture on your cell phone camera when you are videoing these, masked marauders who are running through, neighborhoods. These are not battlegrounds. These are not war-torn parts of Chicago. These are just neighborhoods where, as you heard, parents are trying to walk their costumed kids to a Halloween parade. Video, 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 engage, post, and then submit it to the court. Because as we just saw, Judge Ellis said that was some of the important evidence that I considered in this litigation.
Perfectly put. For those who are looking to continue following along with any legal news as soon as it breaks, please make sure to subscribe to both of our channels. I'm going to put the links right here on the screen. It is completely free. It's a great way to support our work, and it's a great way to support independent media more broadly. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
And I'm Glenn Kirshner.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown.